lot of women play Marvel Rivals. It feels like every time I open mic, at least one other woman will chime in, if not 5 other women. And I got curious as to why. Now, first I gotta prove that a lot of women play the game, so if you want to get to the why, here's a timestamp, but I want to prove my work. My first thought was to go into game and just every match just ask like, yo, is there any women here? But sadly, men kept ruining the data by either lying and then they'd later admit that they were actually a man, or they would go, ew, shut up, which would make women less likely to say that they were women in fear of getting attacked. Though in the few trials I did, there was usually at least one other woman per team, excluding myself. So instead, I decided to do a poll on my YouTube, which is currently sitting at 500 responses, which I think is a decent little chunk of data. And most people believe that there are more women in the game than it is typical for a shooter game. And notably, 90-ish% of women believe that there are more women in this game than typical, which I think is important to know because it's often noted that like when there's equal women to men, men feel like there are more women. But the fact that even women think that there is a lot of women in this game is pretty cool. I also ran this poll on my Discord first, and 70% of the voters there also thought there were more women in this game than typical. So why? Why do so many women play this game? Well, I thought I would ask the women themselves. So I reached out to a few content creators, and one of the first people to respond was ft.WrldKailee, which you may know from her videos highlighting a lot of like the weird toxic people in this game. Her videos are really fun, so totally go check her out. She's gorgeous, she's funny, she's witty, she is the whole package. So for each of these women, I asked, why do you think so many women play Marvel Rivals? Why are you yourself drawn to the game? And do you think there is a larger female identifying fan base for Marvel Rivals than typical? And she replied with a very comprehensive reply. She said, I think a lot of women are drawn to the game for plenty of reasons. Contrary to popular belief, a lot of women love Marvel. I also think Marvel Rivals does a great job introducing skins and characters that aren't just catered towards men. And then for why she's drawn to the game, she goes, honestly, I was playing a lot of Overwatch and had so many people trying to convince me to play Rivals. I like the competitive nature of the game. I especially love that the community loves the game so much. It's really nice seeing a bunch of people who all really like something come together. And now she didn't think that there were more women in this game than typical. She said, honestly, absolutely not. I think there are so many women that play competitive games. I went from Apex Legends to Overwatch to Rivals, and I always saw plenty of women gamers. I think Rivals has shown some people that a lot of women choose not to talk through the mic though. There are women who play every role in Marvel Rivals, they just choose not to talk. I also asked friend of the channel Weka Suwi, who plays some Rivals on her channel, and she's more of a streamer, and she said, cute skins, bro. Also massive fucking forearms and huge asses on men. And then another streamer I asked was YoureaFineGirl, and she said, I don't know, for me personally, I enjoy shooter type games, but hate the toxic masculinity of COD. Both Overwatch and Rivals are also very toxic, but in a different way. More people calling each other dumb rather than go make me a sandwich that I hear in COD and GTA. And then I also asked the girls in Six-ish, which is the YouTube group I'm a part of. So Fortune said, I kept trying to find games to play with my friends, but they kept playing other games, so they finally convinced me to get Marvel Rivals. And then I realized it was the first PvP game I was good at and got obsessed. Elle just said men hot, but she added on, and in appreciating that they sexualize the men too rather than just the women, which is exhausting in games nowadays, but also in a loser bisexual way. My friend Demigoddess, who is also a streamer, I don't know if I count LeMayo, but if I do, then for me, it was honestly mostly that I got into it early, so it was less intimidating than other competitive team games, where I worried too much about letting the team down when I'm first getting into them. And the art is really cool, which helped lol. And then Elle added on, additionally, when playing since launch, when I did play, it felt easier because I was learning the game while everyone else was. So many combat games feel so daunting as a new player that I don't even give it a chance. But Rivals was new. It was fun figuring it all out back in the day. Really, that's nothing special about Rivals. Every game is new at some point, but I guess that's why I kept playing it for so long. I asked some of the women in my community as well. One of the best supporters of my channel, Void, said, I play for a few different reasons, but the biggest is the concept of a hero shooter with pre-established heroes. Like, I never really got into Overwatch or Paladins or anything because I didn't really get to know the characters at all and didn't feel a good connection to them. But with Rivals, there's characters that I already know and love, and the ones I don't can easily be read on, unlike Overwatch where you need to go out of your way and put summaries together to make sense of what is happening. Also, the art style is perfect. And then another member, Kate Vi, said, I originally came to Rivals because a friend asked me to play on release. He told me how it's like Overwatch with Marvel characters. I already had a bit of experience playing Overwatch and being a big Marvel fan. I tried it out and I loved it. As the game went on, they stopped playing, but I continued, almost 2,000 hours. I've met so many amazing people through this game, in this community being just one of them. Another thing that kept me in was the content creators. They're all so nice. When I learned about SK, how she was like me, I saw how supportive people like Flats and Boger were, and the rest of the community. It felt safe. I know most of the support was probably carried over from her time playing Overwatch, but still. So there were a few things that were brought up repeatedly. One of the first one was female gaze and female gaze. It seems the devs figured out pretty early on that they can get a good amount of cash by catering to the people who are attracted to men. So having men that are, you know, they have huge butts and they even increase their butt size and are putting them in tiny little outfits and they're giving them the treatment that a lot of women get in games. There's an effort to make female gamers feel equal in this space while also having the sexy Marvel characters. And even in little skins like the Psylocke and Invisible Woman, all those characters, they get cute pink outfits that, men obviously like, but also girls really like. And then, of course, there are sexy women for women like me to enjoy. A lot of games in this space are very hyper-masculine, like COD and stuff. Like, yes, there is an effort to cater towards women in those games as well, but it feels like Marvel Rivals is very intrinsically built to be a very gender-neutral fan base. And another thing that was brought up a few times was the pre-established characters. I know a lot of women that are huge fans of Marvel. I mean, you see the droves of people who drool over Tom Holland's Spider-Man or Thor or whatever. Like, a lot of women love Marvel. And also, a lot of women seem to really like hero shooters. Valorant and Apex and Overwatch were brought up a lot. Apparently, it seems we really take to those games. Now, I don't really like Apex or Valorant, but I know a lot of women who love those games. And a lot of them and their communities made the push over to Marvel Rivals when it was new. And I think that is part of it. Nobody really talked about this, but it is probably one of the most recent hero shooters we've gotten. Like, Overwatch came out when I was a kid, and yeah, Overwatch 2 came out later, but even the devs admitted that's the same fucking game. And with that newness, there is an ease of access. This game is a little easier than a lot of other games, especially because there's preset loadouts. It's not like Fortnite where you kind of have to rely on luck to get the right weapons. The character has the weapon they have the kit that they will have, and you can just keep practicing with that one kit. And there's a lot of skill expression to be had, but the barrier to entry is quite low with characters like Wanda and Cloak and Dagger and The Thing. Not that women are inherently bad at games, but like I didn't really realize that being good at games was a thing you could do until like a few years ago. So I'm pretty behind on the curve, so I'm still working on it. Like, playing Halo Infinite is a nightmare because it's just me dying and dying over and over. I'm not learning anything. I came from Marvel Rivals from Overwatch because there was just things I could learn, there was spaces I could practice, and I was finally good at a game like this. Because yeah, I think a lot of women don't play a lot of games like this because it's too toxic, or like they weren't allowed to when they were little, or whatever other reasons. Of course, there are a lot of women who play games like COD and they're very, very good at them, but it seems to be less common. And notably, there is a lot of good spots in the community. Yes, Marvel Rivals is a very toxic game, but I have not once been told to go make a sandwich. No, other women totally have. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but like, it seems to be less here, and things like voice changers added to make it so women can speak more comfortably in voice chat. And a lot of the content creators make these nice little hubs to hang out in. Like, I'm in Bandit's Discord, and Bandit is always, like, cussing people out and stuff. Like, you wouldn't think her community was that wholesome, but it's pretty cozy in there. And things like Flats. Like, I love Flats so much, because he's such, like, he's not gentle, but he's also kind to his fan base. And, you know, like, I feel safe as a woman watching him because he's one of our first offenders. He's great. And then obviously there are so many woman content creators. I mean, there's SK, there's Aramori, there's Bandit, there's Valentina Eve, Lulu Lovely, there's Emilyeth, there's Sweet Anita, there's Six, there's Tamara Loves, there's Just Malia. There's so many. They're everywhere, and they're funny, and they're fun, and it's like, I swear, I see more female content creators on this game than I see men. Women have always been in these spaces. My mom has been playing video games since video games have been a thing. She played the Sega Genesis and the Nintendo, and I grew up in her lap as she played Metal Gear games. And, you know, we've always been into comic books. I grew up reading X-Men and Batman and stuff because my parents were into them. But I think as time goes on, there are more and more women games, and games are adapting to allow more women in and adapt and entice them to come in, and communities are adapting to have women in them, and it's so fun. I've been loving seeing more women. Most of the people I play with are women. Now we have things like Aramori's Game Changers Cup, which was almost entirely composed of women. So are you a woman who plays Marvel Rivals? What are your thoughts? Do you think we've always been here, or do you think there are more coming in? Are you not a woman? What do you think? And if you want to support some women content creators, I've got a bunch listed down below. Also, I'm a woman, so if you want to like, comment, subscribe, that'd be cool. Have a lovely, lovely day, guys. Thank you.